Okay, welcome everybody. Delighted to welcome you here this evening for this TrainE-TraidE grads event. My name is Judy Silkoff. I'm head of the employment division here at TrainE-TraidE. TrainE-TraidE was launched in 2006 with a single goal of helping people to become financially self-sustaining, whether that be through building businesses or creating employment opportunities. We offer a wide range of services, from the Business Enterprise Programme, which comprises business advice, mentoring, startup businesses, access to government startup loans, and on the other side of things, careers guidance, regular CV workshops, and our placement services. Many of you will already be familiar with our summer work experience scheme. This year we placed over 170 students in 80 companies, which is really great. In terms of long-term employment, the permanent placement division works to place people in full-time or part-time permanent employment. By coming here this evening, you will have access to the graduate vacancies that are on our books. All we would ask you to do is to fill out the forms which are on the table in front of you, hand them in at the end of the evening, and also if you can email us a copy of your CV and separately a photo of yourselves, we will then be in contact with you when appropriate positions come in and hopefully put you forward for those positions. And at the end of the evening, there will be an opportunity to mingle and have something to eat outside, and myself and my colleagues Debbie and Youre will be around to answer any questions, and of course Margot. And now I'm delighted to welcome Margot. We're really grateful that you've agreed to speak this evening. Margot serves on the main board of Harvey Nash plc, in addition to having her own executive coaching practice, which supports leaders from around the world. Her clients include Coca-Cola, Bank Leumi, RBS and Deloitte, among a range of others, and she's certainly well placed to speak to you this evening about the art of personal branding. Thank you, Margot.
Okay, thanks. I want to start with a small story of something that happened to me this summer. Well, we had quite a good summer, but it took a long time to get started. And one of the grey days of summer, which those of you who know English summers very well know exactly what I mean. And I was walking in Covent Garden, and because it was grey and raining, everyone's kind of slinking around and we feel miserable, and you're looking at your feet. And as I was walking around in that sort of rather gloomy way, I stopped in my tracks. I heard a voice that stopped me in my tracks. And the voice made me smile and laugh and want to stop. And it was the big issue seller. And this big issue seller was so full of life and vigour and humour, and we had a philosophical discussion about the life, the universe, everything. And I gave him my money and took my magazine, and I left, feeling uplifted and with a spring in my step, and I think I got more from that encounter than he did. And it made me think that in a way that is how I define personal branding and excellence. I think it doesn't matter what work you do, whether you're a big issue seller or a receptionist or a managing director or an artist. It's about being the best you can possibly be and giving a service that makes you stand out. He stands out, I'm still talking about him, and be noticed. And how many big issue sellers are there that you walk past and don't even see? So thinking about tonight, I want to think about the way you actually brand yourself. It's a very, very competitive labour market. I'm sure if you haven't discovered that already, you will be discovering it. Is that people's experience? Very competitive. I was saying to a couple of you earlier, the generation that I come from, when we graduated, it wasn't, oh my goodness, which job will I get? Will I get a job? It's which one will I take? Where do I want to work? And there was no question ever that we wouldn't get a job. It was just a matter of which one. It's a very different world, and you have a tough task. So what I want to do is to work with you tonight, make it interactive, give you the beginnings of a formula to work out what is your personal brand, so that, like that big issue seller, you stand out and are noticed in these competitive situations, and that you stand out from the crowd. Now, I'm using, any marketeers, some of you've done business, anybody doing marketing? I think there was somebody marketing. Nobody did marketing? Great. So the floor is mine then. When I wrote my book, I actually analysed marketing principles and proper branding principles. So in exactly the same way that you would brand a product or a service or a company, you can apply the same principles to yourselves. So that's what we're going to do today. You're a product, you're a can of baked beans, and I want to work with you on what is going to make somebody pick you off the supermarket shelf. So if you think about a product, What is it that makes one person choose one product over another on the supermarket shelf? So why do we buy? What drives our buying decisions?
Advertising?
Advertising, yes, because it makes us aware of the product. So we're familiar with it, it has a reputation. Yeah, what else?
Product placement.
Product placement, absolutely. Supermarkets spend thousands on the psychology of where products are. So something about, hi, we've only just started, it's fine, we just started. It's something about the visual impact of where it is, where it's placed. Design, what it looks like. Yeah, we're very influenced, unfortunately, well, fortunately for the branding experts, we're very influenced by what products look like. What else do we buy? What else? Yeah? Quantity, yeah, the size, the value we're getting for it. Yeah. Quantity, what else? Price, absolutely. We buy on price. Not necessarily the cheapest, but maybe it's to do with value. Value for money. Sometimes you actually want to buy something that's more expensive. You don't want Tesco's basic economy. You want Tesco's finest because it makes you feel that you're buying something a bit more special. Yeah. So some of those. Any other reasons why you might buy anything in your mind? Yeah.
Familiarity.
Yeah, exactly. My mum used that product. I'm used to it. I always use Heinz baked beans or whatever it is. So there's a combination of reasons. It's to do with the product itself, the size of it, the quantity inside it, the product. We want the baked beans. It's something to do with the value, something to do with the packaging, and something to do with the reputation. So if we translate that into my 4 themes, can you see? So the ingredients of the product, I call the inner game, and that's who you are as a person. Who are you? What's inside you? It's not baked beans, but it's going to be your equivalent. Be bloody good. Your brand is going to be built on your strengths, on your excellence. Like that big issue seller, you have to be the best you can possibly be at what you're doing. By the way, if you want copies of these slides, you're very welcome to have them. We can send you soft copies. Turn up the volume. It's about packaging. I'm not asking you to be anything other than you are, because you'll never ever be successful if you try. And if I try and copy your style, or I try and copy your style, I'll always be at best average or second best. It's about being yourself authentically, but I call it turn up the volume because we want it to be a loud, crisp, clear version of yourself with no ambiguity, so that if I do this, when you walk in that interview room in 4 seconds, people have made up their minds. They've made some judgment about you. We do this all the time in a very short space of time. So what is that message? What is that crisp, clear message that you want? So I want to encourage you to look at how to produce, how to be authentic and consistent and congruent. The last thing I call, don't just sit there, because unfortunately we want the phone to ring, we want the fairy godmother to come, we want the opportunities to turn up, but they don't. Getting a job is hard work. It's rewarding and it's possible, but it's hard work. And I'm going to touch on some of those things. Now tonight, we've got very little time, so your takeaway is going to be a process. Now some of you will think quite quickly, some of you like to reflect, but I'm going to give you a chance to start putting together these ingredients or these elements of your brand. Take it away. Your takeaway is you will have that process to start thinking about all the different elements of it, and there are plenty of support outside to help you build on this if you want. But this is the process I did when I set up my business. The very first, I really wanted to be. I was an HR director for a pharmaceutical company, and I went into consulting, and I loved all of those things, but I always really wanted to have my own business, to be an executive coach. And the time came where I set myself up and I did my training and I was ready, and I went to my first networking event, and somebody said to me, "Oh, what do you do?" As you do at networking events. And I said, "I'm an executive coach." And I was so proud. And she looked at me and said, "Oh, not another one." That was awful to hear her say that, but actually no, it was a really good message, because it made me think, What is my brand? How will I stand out? How will I be different? There are lots of executive coaches out there. What's my brand? And I went through this exact same process I'm going to go through with you to work out exactly what my messages were. So why don't we just dive in? Some of it's going to be discussions, some of it is going to be a blank sheet of paper that's for you to start putting together your 4 steps. Before we begin, I just want to ask you to think about an object, something that you really like. It might be a car, a ring, a phone, a pen, anything. A thing rather than a person or an animal. And just think about something that means a lot to you, something that you like. And jot down a couple of adjectives, 2 or 3 adjectives that say why you like that thing. So I like this ring. There was a lady called Sally on one of my workshops, and she liked a ring. She had a big, big showy ring. And she said, I like this because it's large, it's showy, it's very individual. So that kind of thing. So just jot really quickly something on your bit of paper, object, 2 or 3 adjectives. So, on your tables, why don't you just tell each other really quickly what your object is, what your favourite object is. I think, yeah, join in on this table. What's your favourite object? Okay.
Saves me time.
It's masterpiece.
It's solid, well built, reliable.
Represents my independence and showing it communicate, like my parents,
Great. I'm going to stop you there.
No, I agree. I'm not from London.
So, even though all of you may not quite have had a chance to say, I can hear some really good objects and really good descriptions. Also, before we begin, can I just get a sense from you? Are there, you've heard me whiz through the agenda of what I'm talking about. Are there any particular things that are on your mind? Because I can see whether during the course of the talk, or certainly afterwards, whether we can pick up some of the things that are on your mind and interest.
yeah. I find on cover letters, I never know how to brand myself, whether to be, like, I have a friend who's always a bit quirky in her cover letters, so I'm never sure how far to go with that.
Okay.
So I'm worried about sounding boring.
Okay. Okay. So we might touch on that. There might be some more rigour and detail. In principle, we'll cover that. Other things that are on your mind?
Well,
of interest?
yeah, pretty much the same, but in a bit different way. Like, for example, some companies receive more than 2,000 applications
Yeah.
for like 80 places.
Yeah.
And again, they look at the cover letter. Like, and the impression is from the very beginning. What should you place in the very beginning to stand out,
Yeah.
so they make it read till the very end?
Okay. Yeah. So it's really constructing it in the right way and what you put at the very beginning. Okay.
Right.
Yeah?
Perhaps in an interview, how do you portray all the things that you've got on there
Okay.
in an interview? Because you don't always have the opportunity.
Okay. We can, and you know, there's so much to talk about. We'll do whatever we can. Please grab me afterwards if we haven't covered everything, because there is lots that is very specific.
Along with the whole application
Yeah.
process. I think there's a very fine line between sort of boasting and sort of
Yeah.
being a bit humble and confident.
Yeah.
And how do you get the balance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And of course it'll be different for each one of us because we have different personality. So, but yes, it's getting that right balance. Okay. So why don't we dive straight into the inner game. What I'd like you to do is just keep a blank sheet of paper going so that you can start building up. You might want to take notes, but separately to start building up some of the elements of your brand. The inner game, the ingredients, do you remember the product? The inner game is about what you want, your aspiration. It's built up on your values. Really, really important part of the brand is what's important to you. Who are you as a person? And it's built on confidence and taking responsibility for yourself. So if we start with aspiration, it's a really simple thing. What do you want? Now, that's quite a big question, isn't it? But you need to have some focus, some objective, some goal. What is it that you want? Now, a lot of people, I don't know if anyone in this room feels as they don't know what they want. Is that anybody? Does anybody feel that way? Don't know what I want. There are so many opportunities. There's so many careers. What do I want? Some people may have already. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an accountant. I want to be the CEO of whatever. I want to be an artist. You might have some specific goals. It doesn't matter which kind of person you are. A lot of very successful people right at the top did not set out knowing what they wanted to do. But you need to have a first step. So maybe your first step or your first goal is, I want to get a job. Or I want to, it must be something. So the first question to ask yourself is, where am I going? What do I want? What do I think I want? And have that as your sense of direction. On top of that, once you've got a sense of direction, it gives you energy and drive and focus. It's a bit like, it's football season. I'm always surrounded by lots of males in my family, and football is very much always on the agenda. But if you imagine a football game without goals, just imagine all that running around for 90 minutes with no purpose or direction. You could argue there's no purpose or direction in football anyway, but the goals and the goal point are the focus of the whole game, the whole season, the whole tournament, everything. It gives you that drive, focus and power. So it is important to have a goal. And there was one woman I interviewed for my book who was, at the time, she was the CEO of Coutts. And she said she absolutely didn't start from that. She started as a graduate, doing marketing, and she had no idea what she wanted to do. And she went to a dinner party, and somebody in marketing was talking about, Toilet Duck, the product. It's if you're not from Britain, it's nothing exciting. It's a toilet cleaning product, but it's called Toilet Duck. And this woman was so passionate about this Toilet Duck. And Sarah Deeves was listening and saying, I'd love to be that passionate about something, even if it is just Toilet Duck. And she went into banking. She went into NatWest on a graduate training program and ended up as the CEO via lots of different things, not knowing she was heading for being CEO, but doing a damn good job doing this. And then the next thing came along, and it's just a goal by goal by goal. I call those crazy paving careers because you build them one step at a time. So it doesn't matter what kind of person, but have a goal. Know where you're heading. Values is where I want to spend a little bit of time. When I'm coaching people, values is almost the most important thing, because if you're not aligned with your values in your work, you will not be happy. Usually when people are not satisfied at work, it's something around their values. All values are is what's important to you. Now, you've got values about life, what's important to you in your life, and we all have different criteria for what we need to have in our lives. But if we focus just tonight on work, what's important to you at work? Is it that I want to be in a place that's very doing fantastic things for the world? Is it a place where there are lots of really good people? Is it a place where I'll get security, if there is such a thing now? Is it a place where there are lots of people? Is there a place where there's challenge, where I'll get lots of recognition, where I'll be stretched, where I'll be developed? So just for a couple of minutes, start thinking about the values of your brand. What is it that's really important to you? What are you looking for to fulfill in your career? These are just for you. You don't have to shout out or declare them or anything like this. It's very private. It's just for you. What's important to you in your work? What makes you tick? I'm being really unfair to you because I'm only giving you very few minutes to start asking yourself this question. But this is a takeaway question. What do I really need to make me satisfied and what makes me tick? Your values are the beginnings of some of the messages there. Values are very important to people. A lot of people are drawn to companies that have values that match up with theirs. So your values drive you. They're the glue that holds you together. And what you can do with your values is when you've got your list is start thinking about which is the most important value, which is the, without this I cannot survive. Leave money out of it because obviously we need money, but a job without people that I like is really something that I couldn't bear. A job without stretch or the possibility to achieve or to have autonomy would not be acceptable to me. So start getting your criteria, and it's beginning a filter of the kind of organisation that will suit you and where you'll be comfortable. Now there are compromises to be made here because at this stage it's grab any job you can and start working. And you might do your list of values and say, well, it's really low on these priorities, but actually I'm getting experience and it's fine for now. So even if you are not living to your potential of your values, you might make a judgment call that this is the right job for now. I've often had a job where it was the wrong job at the right place, the right experience at the time. It's not sustainable long term, but it's good for the short term if there's a higher benefit for you. Quite great for the car to go. The next thing is a strong brand. Thinking about that biggest use seller, there's something about confidence. A brand is built on confidence, and that's not boasting. It's quite a deep confidence, deep sense of self-esteem. And I believe that confidence is a behaviour. It's like a muscle. It can be developed. So some people have it in bucket loads. Some people don't have so much. But wherever you are on the spectrum, it changes. A new job, your confidence levels might go down. You get familiar, your confidence levels might go up. So somewhere on the continuum, we are confident to a level. But it's something you can work on. It is like a muscle that can be developed. So can we share as a room any tips, any ideas, anything you've read about building confidence? Things that work, ideas that you've come across, other people have recommended. What are the ways you build confidence?
I always find that having a smile on my face, or people telling you that being a smiley person always helps. Like, even if you're not confident at the time, it projects that you are somewhat comfortable in your situation and surroundings.
Yes, and sometimes you might not feel something, but you behave a different way, and then you begin to feel the behaviour. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, smile or behave in the way that you want to, and it gives you a sense of confidence. Great, thank you. Yeah, what were you going to say?
You know, sort of based on that you all keep reading or hearing that you are what you think. So if you're thinking a certain way, then you eventually come round to being like that.
Yeah, the self-talk is very, very powerful. If you're saying, you're no good, they're going to be much better than me, I don't think I've got a chance, my CV's rubbish, you walk in a particular way because your brain is telling you something and it doesn't know the difference. So you may as well just trick your brain and do something different. Say, actually, I'm fine, I'm great, I have got a good CV, and the self-talk will give you some sort of lift. So self-talk is a really powerful thing. There's a great little way to do this. If you imagine this is a bucket of really, very murky, dirty water. If I put a pebble in, okay, scientists among you, what happens to the water if I put a pebble into something that's really full?
It will pour out.
Yeah, it displaces the water. So there's only room for either water or pebble, right? So in theory, I could put a whole load of pebbles in there and all the water would come out. Now the analogy with that is the brain is a little bit like that. And if you think of a pebble as a thought, you can only have one thought at a time. Even multitasking women, we can only have one thought at a time. So you may as well make it a good thought. And if you train yourself to think, I am confident, I'm really good at what I do, I am, not I will become, or maybe I'm just a little bit, I am strong, I know my stuff, I can do this. That will give you, from the smile or the behaviour, it gives you that feeling, and after a while you just believe it, because, you know, what's the difference? I know good, I am good. You may as well think that you are doing something good. There's going to be something that's going to give you confidence. Great suggestions. Other ideas?
Meeting.
Sorry, I'll come back to you. Yeah?
No one else doesn't know that you're not confident.
Unless you show it,
Yes.
they don't know. So, yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're just going to meet you and see you, and they are looking to find the good. They're not looking to find fault, I assume. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily show unless you choose to show it. Great. Sorry, I missed one.
Oh, meeting lots of people, and the more people you speak to, like going to networking events, not being afraid to talk to people,
Yeah.
setting yourself goals, like trying to meet 5 new people every day.
Yeah. And talking to people about yourself, getting familiar with what your story is. Preparation will always give you more confidence. The more prepared you are, the more people you support, and the more experienced you are. Yeah, great. There's something called fake it till you make it. And it's a little bit like putting the smile on your face or changing your thoughts and what you've said. And do any of you remember, you're too young to remember Mo Mowlam, but you may have heard of Mo Mowlam. She was the Secretary of State for Ireland, and she was very, very involved in the peace process. And she was a great politician, full of character. Her brand was, very outspoken and down to earth and all of that. But I read in her autobiography, she was describing a time when she very first started as a new MP. So she was young, she was a woman, and she was an inexperienced MP. Guess what her first assignment was? Her first thing she had to do was to go and speak to a room full of city bankers. And she was petrified. She said, I had no confidence. What on earth could little me talk to a room full of city bankers about? Now, if you're in this sort of situation and you can replace the city bankers for any other audience that you want to, you have a choice. You can either slink in and sort of apologise for your very existence. I'm ever so sorry, I don't really know much about banking, but maybe could you tell me some of the things that we should be focusing on? What she decided to do was to act as if she was confident. So she put on a smart suit, and she walked in with her shoulders back, showing, as you said, that she was confident. And she walked in and said, good morning, gentlemen. I'd like each one of you, please, to give me a presentation on the issues that we are facing in banking in the coming year. And she sat down. Now, it was pretty much the same message as the first message, right? but it was delivered in a powerful way. You don't have to grovel and apologise for your very existence because you don't know things. You can package and present what you're saying in a confident way, and it makes a big difference. So if somebody is buying you like they would buy the product off the shelf, they want to feel confident in what they're getting for their money. So slinking in and saying, I don't know very much about this, I'm ever so sorry, which is the humble, is not as powerful as saying, let me hear your ideas, what should we be focusing on? Same message. So act confident, speak confident, behave, think confident. There are all sorts of ways. Any other favourites before we move on?
Taking risks.
Taking risks, yes. Taking risks and succeeding can make you feel confident. If you build on experience, so think about, I'm developing the idea there, if you think about all the things you have done well so far, right the way from, I learned to ride a bike, I did that well, and you've had lots and lots of success in your life so far. So think about the things that you have already done well and allow that to give you the experience of success and build forward to take risks confidently. There are lots of things I would say if before any kind of interview, work on the confidence, prepare, and be, walk in there proud of yourself like Mo Mola. Not arrogant. People don't like boasting, particularly not in the British culture. I mean, every country has got a different culture, so you need to adapt to the culture. But quietly confident, right deep down. I know who I am, I know what's important to me, and I value myself. The final thing, responsibilities, you are the only person in charge. There's no point in blaming the economy, the government, your parents, the employers, the universities. Take charge of your career yourself. You are in control, you are accountable. And that gives you power. If you're waiting for the government to solve something, you're being passive. You might have to wait a long time as well. Let's dive into step 2, be bloody good. And I've tried to give you a range of things here. You can be bloody good in so many different ways. You can be Rafa good, you can be Stephen Hawking good, you can be Victoria Beckham good, you can be the big issue seller good. I don't care what your job is to be the best you can be. So my thinking about be bloody good is to think about your strengths. A brand is built on strengths. So think about the things that you love doing and the things that you're good at doing, and they will be the heart of your brand. And certainly it will be the heart of these messages, your cover letters and applications, and some of the message you want to get across will be around your strengths and your values. This is what I bring. This is the value that I bring to your organisation. Now, even if you haven't had a lot of experience, there are lots of things that you've done. So a good exercise for you to take home and think about is something that you've done as a child that you're very proud of, because your strengths are quite hardwired into you from childhood. So I'll give you an example just so you know what I mean. I was born in South Africa. When I first came to England, all the girls in the playground played this game called jacks. I don't know if you've ever seen jacks. They're little spiky things, and there's a bouncy ball, and you bounce and you pick up the jacks. Well, I hadn't got a clue. I'd never seen a jack in my life. So what I did was I saved my pocket money, bought myself a set of jacks with a ball, and I went home and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced. I drove the family mad because wherever you went in the house you could hear bounce, click, bounce, click, bounce, click. But I learned how to play jacks and I could join in. So this is a 9-year-old girl. This will tell you about my career pattern. So what do you tell from that story? What would you pick out?
You're persistent.
Okay, quite persistent.
You need it.
Determined, persistent, yeah.
You need a team.
I need to belong, I need to be in a team, yeah. Yeah. So something around having a goal, wanting to win, wanting to compete, and doing everything that it takes to practice and master something. That's quite similar to the way I approached my career. Not that I knew, not that I was relating it to Jack's in any way, but it's having a vision, working out how to win in a particular way, and then making sure I practiced and mastered my craft, whatever it was. So when I became, when I went into HR, I didn't have an HR background. I was in the pharmaceutical sector. I had some HR background. I've done some training and I've done some recruitment. But I was in a sales function. I was leading a sales team. And I was ambitious, so it's like the Jacks. I looked at the route to the top. The sales director was a woman my age. She wasn't going anywhere, so there was no path to the top there. There were two gaps, HR and IT. Well, it took me only 1 second to know that it was never going to be IT, but there was a gap in HR that I could see, and I said to the chairman, I think we need an HR person. I think I should be the one to do it. And he said, okay, I'll give you a chance. So that talks about the culture of the organisation that suited me, because it was entrepreneurial and opportunistic. And he said, if you don't succeed, I'll bring someone else in over you. So like the Jacks, I did a master's, I learned everything, I spoke to everyone, and ended up on the board of the pharmaceutical company. So you can see things that you do as a child, through your teenagehood, through to young adulthood, there'll be a theme. Now, I have that in the beginning of my CV. Somebody who is able to set a vision and determine what, so it's based on the Jack story. So start thinking about who you are, what your success strategy is. And then you'll uncover some of your strengths. So that can be quite a powerful way for you to start differentiating your CV, rather than I am I don't know what cliches we normally say, but I quite like to start with something that's really substantive, based on a story or something that's true. Now CVs are very different. There are lots of different ways. You'll get loads of help on CV writing. But I want to start thinking about your strengths. So I want to give you a format that I use in consulting for creating a success profile. How you start thinking about your, what's in your strengths profile. I'm going to have to stand with it. What do you know? What is your knowledge? Okay, so you've got a bunch of qualifications, you've got some education, it's just stuff you know. I know French, I know particular, I don't know, accounting practices, so what you know. The next box, this is how we put together assessment centres in consulting based around these things. Experience, what have you done? Now, the younger you are, the less experience you have, but you still will have done something. You'll have run a youth pack, you'll have led a group of people across Israel, you'll have been in some kind of project at university, you'll have led a team doing an assignment. You'll maybe have some summer jobs, work experience. These are just examples of things that you have got in your experience. So you're going to start pulling out some of those and looking at what you achieved in those roles and what you delivered and what they say about you in the amongst your experience. Even babysitting or something like that, what does it say? I was saving to go on a trip, and I was determined, and I was very responsible. I took care of the children. There's something. There's a story to tell that you can build on. I'm not going to say that a babysitting story is the most powerful story to get you to the top of the 2,000 pile, but start unpicking for yourself. What is it that you're really good at? What's distinct about you? Competencies, this is what organisations focus on. These are competencies that they are looking for in organisations. I've just put some examples. They're going to look for people who are achievement orientated, people who are driven to focus on quality, people who are organised, people who get on with teams and collaborate really well, people who might be good at analysis or detailed work depending on what you're doing. People communicate well. All of these sort of things are going to be your competencies, and when you're going for a job, it's worth knowing as much as you can about the job and making a mapping exercise between what the job is asking and what your competencies are. So you make it very easy for the person to see that you can do the job. Okay? The final part of the strengths profile is just who you are as a person. Now these are less trainable, they're core, but they might be part of your signature, part of your trademark. It might be that you're a really fun person, you're very humorous. It might be that you have lots of energy. It might be that you're just a really genuine, caring person. So what is it, who are you, that you bring to bear? And some of these things should be reflected in your CVs and your applications. It's like a consistent story. If you think about the Jack story, what I would do is start off with a powerful statement that says this is a person who has vision and can create success, or whatever it would be, very bad choice of words, but it shows persistence to get results. Okay, it's true, I've done it with my Jacks and any other time. Then you start looking at your selected achievements. What have I done? And make sure that your selected achievements and highlights that reflect the things that you put at the top. So it's a story that builds. And the competencies that you're going to talk about support that. So that when you come to the interview, it's an integrated story based around something that's very firm, compelling, and unique to you. Like your fingerprint, it's as unique to you as the fingerprint is. And that will be your story. So just take a couple of minutes now to start thinking about not average, not what I'm average at. I'm just getting you to focus on what am I bloody good at? What are some of the things that drive me and that are my distinct features or distinguishing strengths? Okay, so you've got somewhere there, you've got your values, and now we're going to add your strengths. Okay, so just a few minutes to start thinking about what am I, hope you don't mind me swearing, but what am I bloody good at? Okay, couple of minutes. So here's a little caveat for you. I'm a nice baby boomer. You are all Generation Y. And baby boomers are the parents of Generation Y. And you know what we tell our children? Darling, you're wonderful. You can do anything you like. You're amazing. So you only got 5% on your maths. Never mind, darling. Well done, well tried. I'm very proud of you. So I would like you to do a double check on your strengths and do a reality check on them, and start thinking about, well, are you really that good? I think TrainE-TraidE do some assessments, don't you, on actually checking your strengths with whether they're the sort of things at the level that organisations are looking for. So start finding out what the organisation's looking for, and are your strengths there? Otherwise you need to up your game a bit. It's like somebody saying, I'm really brilliant at tennis, and then they go to the US Open and they find there's a bit of a gap between what they think is brilliant and what actually is brilliant, and you have then more work to do. So it's just a bit of a caveat on the, because we do love our children to think they're completely wonderful, and it's worth doing a quick double check on that. What are organisations looking for? They're looking for people who add value to their organisation. So start thinking about, when you're going for interviews and when you're putting your CVs together, what makes this organisation tick? What are they looking for? if I was sitting in their chair, what I really hope is walking through the door, because they're looking for talent. Yeah.
But that would change that would depend on the organisation.
Of course.
So
of course.
you would want to not change your strengths, but adjust them according to the company.
Yeah, you adjust your style. Yes, you're always authentic for you. You're always, this is me, these are my values, these are my strengths. But what is this organisation looking for? And you maybe adapt your language or how you present it to, in the same way that you would speak to one friend in one way and another friend in another way. It's not being ungenuine, you just adapt your personality to different types of people. We do that all the time, and it's the same with organisations. Yeah, and this changes. So where you are now, in 5 years' time, there'll be different messages. Yeah, good point. Part of your preparation, we're going to come on to that, is your packaging. Part of your communication is making it appropriate to who you're talking to. So really good point. So you've got your package of strengths. There are going to be gaps, there are going to be things that are not as strong, and your aim is to make those not get in the way. So if you've got any really obvious glaring strengths, you have to work around them. They're not going to define your brand, but what you don't want them to do is tarnish your brand. So if you're wonderful at all this, but you're very bad at timekeeping, your very bad timekeeping will jeopardize your brand or your strengths. So you've got to make sure that your weaknesses don't get in the way. But your brand is going to be built on your strengths. So let us just take one little second to think about the differences. You are Gen Y. Have you heard the expressions Gen Y, Gen X, baby boomers? For the first time, we've got 4 generations in the workplace. People who are still from the war are just ending their careers. People like me and people who are Generation X in their 30s and 40s are running companies. There are some Generation Y people running very young companies, but mostly you're going to be coming in as a new generation to people with very different values and expectations to you. So it's worth thinking about. You know, we talked about different companies, you need to adapt your style. You also need to think about, I'm a younger generation. I've grown up in a very different way, different experiences, different lifestyle, and there are so many stories about clash of generations in the workplace. Have you come across any of these stories or any experience yourself? So we talk about it in business. I'm going to give you a couple of examples because these are some hints and tips. Don't do these things. I work for Harvey Nash, as we talked about before, and we have a business in Vietnam. And we went into Manchester University to say, here is a dream opportunity. Here's an internship for 5 of you to come and work in Vietnam, all expenses paid, to teach English. We'll provide training, you'll travel. This is a dream opportunity. People thought this was absolutely fantastic, great opportunity. And they poured in their hundreds to hear about this opportunity. So we sat down to interview them. People didn't know what our company was, they hadn't prepared, they didn't know our website, they didn't know what the job was. Non-starter. So if you want to have a chance to stand out with all these things, at least do some of your homework, do preparation. What makes this organisation tick? Why will I be a good English teacher? You have to prepare. You have to prepare. Some other Gen Y things that we're noticing in the workplace is, these are generalisations. They may not apply to you at all, but they are generalisations that people are talking about and noticing. Somebody I know is the MD in a PR company. She's youngish herself, she's only in her early 30s. She had an internship for this young guy, and I mean, an internship at Edelman's, this top international PR company. And this guy, it's like gold dust to have these internships, you must know that. And she said to this guy, come, I've got a great project for you, let's go work together, this is great for your experience. And he said, oh, but it's my lunch break. Now, I promise you that will not go down well. So what if it's your lunch break? And so what if your lunch break is the most important thing to you and you think you have every right to have a lunch break? That does not go down well. Here's an opportunity to learn something. just skip the lunch break for the time. That's my strong hint. That kind of thing does not bode well. We also notice Harvey Nash is a recruitment company. We do search, we do outsourcing. We notice we have to train our candidates quite hard because things like when you're asking questions, people are not impressed if you ask about how much holiday am I going to have? Can I do my gym and come in at 9:30? When is my next pay rise? People are not looking for that. They want to know that you want to give them something before you take. Now, on the flip side, I'm educating companies to adapt their styles to embrace Generation Y and some of the differences. But because I think you're the talent of the future, you're going to be running the companies of the future. So we need to embrace you and have you in our companies. But for you in this competitive environment, just think about, put yourself across the table and think about what they want to have from you and what you want, what they want in you to give. Give service, give value, give over and above. You can always change companies later when you're running them. So bear that in mind, that the people interviewing you may have very different expectations about the workplace. And I've got something for you to take away, different generations. It's quite humorous, it's quite fun, what we all different expectations. You just think about parents and children, you kind of got it. Let's go into step 3. This is the packaging. Turn up the volume. It's being about you, but being a brighter, crisper, clearer, stronger, congruent version of you. So, first of all, say the colour. It's saying red, but it's also saying green. So is it green? Is it red? There's something about a misaligned brand when you say you're one thing, but actually you're behaving another way, which will tarnish your brand. So what I want to look at in this section is really getting an authentic, aligned, congruent, consistent message that people get you. So in that 4 seconds, they just get green. They don't get, is this green or is this red walking into the room? They get the one thing. Now, I use the analogy or the metaphor of Brighton Rock. Do you all know what Brighton Rock is? Some of you are not from Britain. It's this terrible stuff, dentist's nightmares. Rock candy, the Americans call it. And I use that because they always have a message. I love Mum, Brighton Rock, Edinburgh Rock. And I like the message because wherever you break the rock, the message is the same, right the way through. It's like it's DNA. And that's something like you get with an aligned brand. There's something, you just know it. So if you're buying your tin of baked beans, you just know what they're going to be like. They're always like that. They've been like that for generations, and you get what you know. And there's something about that with branding. So let's dive into thinking about how you describe a personal brand. So when you think about a person, any person, public domain probably because we don't know the same people, and you think of strong personal brand, what kind of people come to mind? Could be anybody. Who do you think of?
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson, great personal brand. What words would we use about Boris Johnson?
Confident.
Confident. Quirky.
The Barclays bike.
And the Barclays bike, yeah. Very clever, he's got his spectator thing, but this quirkiness is part of his brand, and his humour, it works very, very well for him. Good example. So we think of Boris and they're 3 words, or 4 words. Another example, anyone else come to your mind? Strong brand.
David Beckham.
Richard Branson.
Richard Branson.
Beckham.
Both. Really strong brands. So let's take Branson. What words would you use about Branson? Strong brand.
Entrepreneurial.
Entrepreneurial, for sure.
Adventurous.
Adventurous, yeah. Up in balloons and doing all kinds of things, yeah.
Risk taker.
A risk taker. So even without knowing him, or knowing Boris Johnson, we can describe them, and we all recognise those words. That's a strong brand. Beckham, the same.
Yeah.
What would you say about Beckham? What words would we use if we're talking about Beckham?
Professional equipment.
Fashion, yes, there's the fashion icon thing now. What else?
Commitment.
Commitment, yes, the commitment to the country, his ambassador role, commitment to his sport.
Competitive.
Competitive for sure. You know, if you're footballer, you could be competitive. But he trades on this family image as well, doesn't he? A good guy. So the fashion brand. So these are the ways we start thinking about a brand. We can all describe a car, a can of baked beans. We can also describe people. So let's start thinking about you. Here's some brands. We're talking about her a lot today. There's Richard Branson. Funny enough, Richard Branson's name nearly always comes up as one of the top brands. I don't know whether you think David Cameron has got a good brand or not. What do you think? What words would we use?
Noticeable.
It's notable. You might disagree with his politics, but is there a strong brand there? Is there a consistent message? I thought that picture was quite an incisive one. There's Al Beckham. You see, Princess Diana's one of the world's biggest brands ever, and even now, if her picture's on the front of a paper, it will still sell. They've made a movie about her, for goodness sake. She's still a very, very strong brand. Adele, doesn't matter what performance art, what sport, business, brands translate across any sector that you might be involved in. And you can build a brand on values, which is what's happening with, what's her name, Malala? You know, education for women. She's standing up. Her brand is built on her values. Her brand is built on compassion and fashion. The things that we've described there can be based on emotion. Adele is, you know, my bleeding heart is her brand story. So what we're going to do now for a while is start thinking about the words that describe your brand. Now this is a real takeaway, and I want you to enjoy this. So before we start, what I want you to do is to take your object. Now remember I said this woman I would call Sally, who had her ring. The ring she chose was large and showy and stood out. I can't remember the words I said. But what I want you to do is to put the words I am in front of your adjectives. So with Sally, she was this very large, flamboyant, striking character, you know, very colourful and very theatrical. And she hooted with laughter, and she stood up and she said, I am large and stand out and flashy and different, just like her ring. And sometimes the objects that we love and the objects we surround ourselves also say something about our brand. So first words are your brand words. So start a list of your words. What are my 3 brand words for my object? I heard some practical. I heard I like the look. I heard interested about development. I heard stylish. All sorts of words with your objects. Would anybody be happy to share what their object was and what their adjectives were? Okay.
Mine was my car.
Yeah.
And it's practical. It represents my independence, and it's not showy or extravagant.
Okay, so there's something about brand. I'm practical. I'm independent, and the opposite of not showy. So you can have I'm not showy, but there's something about what's a not showy word? Let's think of a good word. Down to earth or something like that. What you see is what you get. I'm authentic.
Yeah.
So there you see is a really good example of an object that says something. So your first words, you're going to have a blank sheet of paper. We're going to just do a whole bunch of words now. First words are your object words, so get those down. If they don't work, I'll help you translate them later. Okay, so blank page, your object words. Practical, independent, down to earth, glamorous, fun, important. For those of you who came in a bit later, this was something we did at the very beginning. We just picked out an object that you really liked. Okay, so you've got your 3 object words. Now, I want you to, and this is fast, I'm going to do this quite fast. I want you to write down the words that you would use to describe your brand, to describe yourself. What words? Okay, so you can always add to that list. Go home and think about homework. Think about what are the words you use. What I want you to do now is take your head off, and I want you to put someone else's head on, and I want you to see yourself through someone else's eyes. And I'm going to encourage you to think about either a university lecturer or a boss, somebody of that capacity. You just say, what would they say about you? What words would they use if I went to ask them about you? What would they say about you? So choose your own example of somebody in a sort of authority position. Okay, next hat. Take this head off, put another head on, and now I want you to see yourself through the eyes of your peers. Peers at university, other students, or friends if you want. So people who are similar to you. How would they describe you? The last thing, just for time, you can do this for any group, but the last one is I would like you to write down what words you would like to be on there. What would the aspirational words of your brand? Words that perhaps aren't there, but you would like to be there. What are the words you'd like people to be saying about you? So here's the task. Take this list home and think about it. Think about the words that people would use to describe you, just the way that you describe Richard Branson and Boris Johnson and David Beckham. Then start looking at your list. Do you see yourself the same way that other people are seeing you, or is there a big discrepancy? Do you think you're great and everyone else is thinking you're rubbish, or is it the other way round? What's the reality check there? And what's the aspiration of your brand? How do you want to stretch your brand? What are the words that you like? And then your beginning of your development plan or your action plan can be how you begin to expand the brand so that it becomes what you want it to be. You can also think about what do you want people to feel, because a brand attachment is about feeling, how people feel when they engage with you. How do you want them to feel? Do you want them to be excited? Do you want them to be stimulated? Do you want them to have fun? Do you want them to be touched? What is it? So think about the emotional content of your brand. That's your takeaway. So there's your map beginning to form your values. Your values can be part of your brand, like Malala. Your strengths, and that can also be part of your brand. Great tactician might be part of your brand. And then your brand words. You're beginning to get a whole thing. So let's quickly look at how you communicate a brand. So we've got now quite a nice mixture of things that are the foundation of your brand, but how do you communicate it and express it? Do you know what these, anyone come across these percentages before? Do you know what they stand for? When thinking about communicating, 7%, any ideas?
Body language.
Yep, 55% of our communication is non-verbal. So in 4 seconds when you walk through that door, that's what's talking. Do you know what the 38 and 7% are? 7% is the words that you use. It's what you say. So we spend hours preparing maybe what we're going to say, and it is only 7%. It's important. It's important, but it is only 7%. 38% is how you say it. So let's test this out. If I said to you,